We live in a completely wireless world, right? We're surrounded by invisible signals that we rely on for literally everything. But what if I told you there's another invisible force out there, one that can mess with, slow down, and sometimes even kill those connections? Well, today we're digging into that threat, radio frequency interference, or RFI for short. Now, this deep dive is actually part 8 of a much bigger 10-part series. All the information we're covering comes straight from a super detailed report by a group called RFI Detectives. They're part of Virtualization Options LLC. The full title is An Introduction to Radio Frequency Interference, or RFI, Electromagnetic Interference, or EMI, and Space Weather for IT Professionals. It's a mouthful, but it's packed with good stuff. So yeah, we're basically breaking down their expert findings to give you the key insights you need to start tackling these invisible wireless problems. So let me just ask you, right off the bat, what do you think is the biggest threat to your wireless network? I bet your mind immediately goes to things like hackers, or maybe a server failing, right? But what if the real culprit is something you can't even see? And that brings us right into our first section. We have to start thinking of the air around us, the radio spectrum, as a real physical environment. And just like any other environment, it can get noisy, incredibly noisy. So what is RFI? Well, the official definition is any unwanted electromagnetic energy that disrupts your wireless communications. But let's be real, it's the static, it's the interference, it's that mysterious gremlin that causes your Wi-Fi to drop for no reason and makes everything feel painfully slow. Okay, this right here, this is the perfect analogy, especially for you IT pros. You've all had to troubleshoot electrical noise on a good old-fashioned copper cable, right? Well, RFI is exactly the same idea. It's just happening invisibly in the air. That noise corrupts the data, forcing your devices to resend information over and over, and that just kills your network's performance. So if this invisible noise is all around us, where in the world does it come from? Well, a lot of it is man-made, things like microwave ovens or even faulty electrical equipment. But one of the biggest sources is something you'd probably never even guess. Yup. The sun. You heard me right. We're not just talking about some little device in the next room anymore. We are talking about a gigantic source of electromagnetic energy that blasts the entire planet. This whole phenomenon has a name: space weather. It's things like solar flares and other wild events happening on the sun that shoot these massive waves of energy toward Earth. The report we're drawing from actually calls this the least intuitive but potentially most devastating kind of interference. And check out this number, just to get a sense of the scale we're talking about. The source of this interference is 93 million miles away, and yet it has enough power to disrupt our GPS satellites, our power grids, and even your company's Wi-Fi network. It's pretty mind-blowing. Okay, so we've got this invisible noise, RFI, coming at us from all angles, from everyday gadgets and even from the sun. It sounds like total chaos. So how on earth do you measure, let alone manage, something you can't even see? Well, the secret to measuring all this chaos comes down to one critical concept. It's called the noise floor. And honestly, if you manage any kind of wireless network, this is one of the most important things you can understand. The noise floor is pretty much what it sounds like. It is the base level of all the background radio noise in any given location. The report points out that this is probably the single most important RF concept that most IT professionals were never formally taught. And it's a huge deal because it sets the absolute fundamental limit for how well your network can perform. This is, hands down, the best analogy I've ever heard for the noise floor. Think about it. Your Wi-Fi signal is that whisper. In a super quiet library, that's a low noise floor, you can hear that whisper from all the way across the room, no problem. But in a loud, crowded restaurant, a high noise floor, that exact same whisper is totally lost. The whisper didn't get any quieter, the room just got a whole lot louder. So let's bring this back to your actual job. Why does knowing about this loud restaurant matter so much when you're trying to keep a network up and running? Well, when RFI raises the noise floor, it's like the restaurant getting louder and louder. Your wireless devices literally can't hear the signal clearly anymore. So what happens? They're forced to retransmit their data again and again and again. This is why network can feel sluggish even when you have 5 bars of signal. The signal strength doesn't matter if it's being completely drowned out by noise. And here's the bottom line, the most crucial takeaway. You can go out and buy the newest, fastest, most expensive wireless gear on the market. But if you don't understand and manage the noise floor in your environment, your network will never perform the way it's supposed to. The noise floor is the hard limit, period. And that brings us to the final, really important question I want to leave you with. As an IT pro, you monitor everything, right? Bandwidth, latency, signal strength. But do you actually know the noise floor where your most critical wireless systems are operating? Because if you don't, you're trying to manage your network with one eye closed.